The sun sets on the once but no longer credible New York Times. Minneapolis leftists think it's a great idea to have some really bad ideas and some much needed good news. Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee with The Breakdown. Well, in the obituaries today, let's all bid a sad farewell to the New York Times. It's been very sick for a long time, barely surviving on the tattered remnants of its long decayed reputation. But this weekend is going to be carved into granite as the date when it finally expired. Not that it won't continue staggering on, a zombie-like shell of its former self for sure, but it's now just a dead paper walking, and anyone who isn't also brain dead ought to know that. I've often branded it the New York Slimes. They've proven me right. This weekend, the Times tossed its last remaining shard of journalistic integrity into the Antifa-lit bonfire by announcing that James Bennett, its editorial page director, would resign and Jim Deo, his deputy, would be reassigned. And why? Because they had the temerity to print Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton's op-ed, which endorsed the use of U.S. troops to quell the violent riots destroying American cities. By the way, that's an opinion shared by 58% of Americans, according to recent polls, but not by the young snowflake staffers of the Times, the generation taught that words they disagree with are violence and have to be silenced. And the paper's upper management, who used to claim to be liberals who believe in free speech, capitulated to their own internal mob. It's now official. There is no place for any dissenting opinion on the New York Times opinion page. And you certainly won't find it in the opinion pieces they run as news articles. Even a former New York Times reporter thought this was a bad mistake by the Times, though he ultimately disagreed with Senator Cotton's opinion on using the military to quell the riots. In his opinion piece for Fox News, Alex Berenson stated, quote, "Opinion pages exist to offer a diverse set of viewpoints. Knowing what people in power like Senator Cotton are thinking is especially important," end quote. Now he goes on to say this, at a time when social media giants like Facebook and powerful technology companies like Amazon are openly censoring views they don't like, the fact that the Times, and other newspapers too, have also backed away from free speech is troubling and dangerous. To that I say amen. Now remember, this is the same New York Times that ran an op-ed by Vladimir Putin in 2013 and did it without condemnation, and rightfully so. Yet when they run an opinion piece by a standing U.S. senator, they collapse in on themselves like a crying star. John Lennon's son, Sean, who surprisingly became a rare voice of reason in the music industry, also provides an appropriate eulogy for the Times, and he said this, "This is the end for you guys. Firing someone for allowing different opinions in your paper means you're no longer a real newspaper. It's been fun. You had a good run. The best, in fact. Rest in peace." Now, lest you think I'm overstating the depths of rabid partisanship to which the Times has sunk, New York Times writer Nicole Hannah-Jones, who recently won a Pulitzer Prize for the 1619 Project, a widely debunked slice of historical propaganda that claimed America was founded on nothing but slavery, she actually told CNN that the Republican Party is a rogue organization, and the media should not treat it fairly by letting its opinions be heard, because that would be picking sides. So it must pick one side and then silence any dissent to avoid picking sides? Looks like I'm going to be writing an obituary for the Pulitzer Prize soon. So what does the New York Times think is fit to print? Well, apparently an op-ed telling people to stop talking to their relatives unless they publicly support the organization Black Lives Matter. They say love requires sacrifice. As Ed Driscoll at Independent notes, this demand that you cut your friends or parents out of your life if they don't accept your extreme beliefs is the standard operating procedure of cults. The Times has ceased even to pretend being a legitimate newspaper. It's now an oversized propaganda leaflet. And you should expect no more journalistic integrity, objectivity, or fairness from it than you would from some Xerox manifesto handed out on a street corner by a hairy guy who smells like a cat litter box. Well, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I hope you'll consider doing that. Hit the notification bell as well so that you'll know that we've got more content coming up for you. All right, a 75% majority of the Minneapolis City Council wants to dismantle the city's police department. Yeah, you heard me right. Not reform it, dismantle it. A move so insane that even the far-left mayor opposes it. According to National Review, Minneapolis City Council President Lisa Bender and 8 other city council members, who together form a veto-proof majority on the 12-seat body, have already signed a pledge to dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department. Mayor Jacob Frey has backed reform, but he refused to defund the city's police force entirely. But the council has the votes to override his veto. This isn't an extreme example of outsider leftist activists calling for an end to the police. This is the president of the Minneapolis City Council, a city of 500,000 people. I don't see a scenario where small businesses can exist without a police force. Anyone who tries to start a business will inevitably be under the thumb of the mob for protection. That's how it works without honest cops. Business owners will have to have 24/7 security or highly advanced security systems to avoid nightly robberies. Crime rates will skyrocket, including homicides. And who's going to suffer the most from all of this? Well, people in the poorest communities. If ever there was a scenario that would keep Americans from rising out of poverty, it's when the government doesn't do the one thing it's supposed to do: protect our rights. They won't be available to protect any rights in Minneapolis if this goes through. But the Democrats will never attribute this to terrible policy. Nope, they'll say the colossal and bloody failure that is destined to follow is somebody else's fault. Seems like a better solution would be for all the far-left city officials who've had a one-party lock on power for over half a century and created what they admit is a corrupt racial system. Why don't they resign en masse and let someone competent take over? But instead, they want to dismantle the police department amid the midst of widespread rioting, vandalism, and looting. That's kind of like dealing with wildfires by dismantling the fire department. And when asked an actual question by a journalist on CNN, I know that in itself is shocking, City Council President Lisa Bender offered the most dodgy, white guilt-riddled response to date. Watch.
What if, in the middle of the night, my home is broken into? Who do I call?
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality, where calling the police may mean more harm is done.
Well, it's official. Rose Nylund of the Golden Girls is no longer the dumbest person ever to come out of Minnesota. I mean, at least Rose was smart enough to move to Florida, and I bet a lot of Minneapolis residents are going to follow her lead. If you live in Minneapolis, you might want to consider getting out while the getting is good. That is, before you have robbers breaking down your door and you call the city for help and get a lecture about your privilege for having owned something that the poor robber doesn't own. I mean, with these morons in charge, he'll soon own everything you did. And I wonder, does that privilege claim also apply to black homeowners who get burglarized by white criminals? And there are a bunch of them. Maybe this is the strategy to get rid of private property. If a burglar can just steal everything you own, and the government can't and won't intervene, that'd make the idea of private property moot. Well, clearly the Minneapolis City Council has no interest in facts during their decisions. Otherwise, they care that the spike in U.S. homicides in 2016 was largely due to 5 neighborhoods in Chicago that had a lighter police presence on the streets following officers' high-profile killings of young black men. Or that following Black Lives Matter's calls for police pullback in Baltimore, the city hit a record per capita homicide rate in 2017 with a total of 343 homicides. No matter what they care about is the symbolism and the virtue signaling. Woke white liberals like Councilwoman Bender, I think they only care about how to best self-flagellate so that they can appear even woker. You want to talk about privilege? The city council won't be the ones to suffer at the hands of these terrible policies. It's going to be the people in inner cities. Just casualties of war, I suppose. But hey, at least she admits it's going to take years before the utopian police-free future survives and arrives, and police are no longer even necessary. Liberals just have to find a way to perfect human nature and rid it of sin by throwing enough tax money at it. Well, finally, I think we agree we need a feel-good story right now, and here's a great one. It happened in Buffalo, New York. 18-year-old Antonio Gwynn Jr. was so upset by the trashing of his neighborhood by some of the rioters that he grabbed a broom and some trash bags and went to work at 2 a.m. cleaning it up. He worked for 10 straight hours. Now, by the time volunteers arrived to do some cleanup, they found that Antonio had just about finished the job all by himself. When word spread of what Antonio had done, local businessman Matt Block was so impressed that when he saw Antonio looking for car buying advice on his Facebook page, Block gave Antonio his prize 2004 red Mustang convertible. Now, he didn't realize how it would affect Antonio, who was stunned into silence because his late mother used to drive a red Mustang. As word spread, another local businessman kicked in a full year of free auto insurance, saying, "I just felt compelled to help him out. We just need to get together, our whole city, and show people that there are many good people here." Then to top it off, Medallia College in Buffalo offered Antonio a scholarship to study business. I don't know about you, but I'm sure glad there are still people out there who treat each other with kindness and love. I just wish we would see a whole lot more about it on TV. Well, thanks for sticking around. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel below and click the notification bell. And be sure and leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed the video. And if you'd like more of my news analysis and commentary, sign up for my newsletter delivered twice daily to your email inbox at MikeHuckabee.com. And by the way, it's totally, completely, 100% free. Also, I hope you'll tune in this Saturday for the next episode of Huckabee on TBN. Till then, that's it for this edition of Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.